Senator Joel Anderson, who is here. It is his birthday. Happy birthday to you, Senator Anderson. Nice to have you here.
Yeah. So we are talking about, obviously this immigration debate has been huge. It has dominated all the headlines for about 3 weeks now. Senator, lay it down for us in terms of what's happening in California. As we understand it, there are people up there, the majority of the Democrats are trying to turn California into a
sanctuary state.
The entire state.
That's correct.
Okay, how does that happen?
Well, they have a bill, SB 54, that they're promoting. The President Pro Tem, Kevin De Leon, that's his bill.
Yeah.
And the whole focus is to shield everybody here that is undocumented. And that includes felons. So one of the concerns I have is that we can argue over dreamers, people that came here to improve their lives. But people that came here to prey on others, I don't think that they should be shielded in any way, shape, or form. And so we've been pushing on the President Pro Tem to carve those folks out, to make that a better bill. But even so, you have to understand, we have the 10th Amendment. And in the 10th Amendment, states can go it alone. We have state rights for when it comes to education, when it comes to our streets and our things, our infrastructure, states are responsible. And then the federal government has its own responsibilities, like protecting our borders, protecting us through the military, all these types of items. There are monies that we share, and there are monies that the federal government gives us to help them do their job. And we're putting all that money at risk. And so,
in what way?
Well, $105 billion comes to California through the federal government. Some of that money are grants to assist them on enforcing federal law. We may lose that money, and it's probably guaranteed that we lose that money. And just to give you an idea, $135 million comes to help fight gangs and other crimes from undocumented folks. So we have in our prisons, 7% of our prisons, about just over 11,000 of our prisoners are undocumented. We're talking about murderers, people that have been convicted of murder, people that have been convicted of rape, child molestation, and other felonies are sitting in our prisons, and they give us money to keep them incarcerated. These are grants, and to help them deport them later. Now, one of my biggest issues are that we don't want those people coming back. I'm okay with them serving time, but when they're done serving time, I don't want them coming back to our
we don't want to set them free on our streets.
Exactly. And so up to now, we've been working with the federal government on deporting those folks, and under SB 54, they would be returned to our communities, and we would not work with them. And we would lose that $135 million.
Last weekend when you were here, I was asking you about the bill and the language of the bill, and I said, is it written, does it actually say that law enforcement would be prohibited, local law enforcement would be prohibited to work with federal agents, federal authorities? And you brought in a copy, I guess, of what the bill states.
Well, we highlighted it for you, so to make it easy.
And what does it say, Senator?
Well, essentially what it says is everybody's prohibited. In the past, see, in 2014, they passed the Trust Act. And the Trust Act said, we're not going to assist the federal government if somebody gets a broken taillight. If somebody jaywalks, we're not going to assist deporting them. But we are going to assist those hardened criminals, those felons that are serving, who have harmed others. And when we talk about harming people, the people that prey on us don't make a distinction whether you're here legally or whether you're undocumented. And they prey on everyone. And most of the time, they prey on the undocumented because they think that they're not going to be turned in to the police. Yeah. So it's really important that we don't allow them to return to our communities and that they do get deported. So under the Trust Act, they understood that. And now they've gone one step further. They said, oh no, we're shielding everybody all the time, and we're not going to assist the federal government in any way, shape, or form. And that just doesn't make sense. And, they claim, well, there was no protections for the Dreamers, but in 2014, they passed the Trust Act. So many of the things that they say SB 54 does is already law.
Being done,
It's already been done. Yeah. So you have to ask yourself, why would you do this unless you're trying to grandstand on an issue.
Well, don't you think
and take
that
advantage of an
there's a
issue?
statement being made here by the Democrats in Sacramento?
But there are better ways of making that statement. You know, if you went back and you went to the federal government and you said, if people come here, because our country was built on immigration, we all understand that. We all, you know, that's what makes our country great. But I think that the real questions come down to, do we want to send people home that are here to improve their lives and to be Americans, or do we want to exclude them? Now, if you ask that and you say, yes, we want them to be there, we have to come up with a plan that allows and protects people who waited in line. You know, I have friends, and we all know people that spent 8 or 13 years trying to immigrate here. They've done it legally. They've paid $20,000, $30,000. They've waited this long period of time. We have to do something that respects people who came through the front door. And so when we address this issue, we have to address it in mind that we want to encourage people to come through the front door. At the same time, balance the needs of somebody that came here as a 8-month-old baby who's
And is
only
now an
known
adult
America, and then also make a huge distinction on those who come here to prey on us. And that's where there's a huge disconnect.
So where
They're
does
not
the
trying
bill
to protect us.
stand? Where does the bill stand right now? Because I know it had passed a committee.
Right.
Last week.
It is racing along as fast as it can go, and it's going to come to the Senate floor. It'll be eligible shortly. So I anticipate seeing it come to the Senate floor. You know, I'm in the super minority. One party controls all 5 constitutional offices and the 2/3 in both houses. So the likelihood of anybody stopping it is slim to none. But I'm asking people to slow down and think about what the real goal is. See, when you ramrod something through like this, it's not about passing the law. Otherwise, you'd be reaching out and trying to get bipartisan support. It's more about grandstanding on an issue. You know, Trump is very hot right now, so if you can focus on being anti-Trump, then your chances to run statewide in the next election increase dramatically. Well, let's not focus on how politicians improve their power. Let's actually do something in the best interest of our constituents. And, you know, we have a water crisis. We have our education's at risk.
We're about to bury 3 million pounds of nuclear waste on
waste.
our coast.
We've got a lot on our plate. I'm not sure having this much bandwidth solely focused on this to shield felons is in our best interest. And I'm just saying, slow down and let's have a conversation that makes sense for all Californians and all Americans.
How's your petition? Because I know that you've started a petition.
Well, the petition is to stop this because of the fear of having felons being returned to our communities. It's taken off. Now, I have to do a shout out to the two of you. I've had very little local press. I've gotten tons of press nationally. I've gotten tons of press up and down the state. So a lot of people that have signed the petition aren't locals at all. They're actually outside my district. You're the only ones taking on this issue, and I think this is exceptionally newsworthy because it's going to impact our lives. We have $105 billion in federal money in our state budget. And if we lose, and what they're estimating is 29 billion of it
29
is
billion.
potentially in jeopardy. And that's going to set us way back. It's going to affect our schools. It's going to affect our roads and infrastructure. And I think those are important issues. I think that we should be protecting our schools, and I think that we can do better on education. You know, we haven't fully funded education yet from all the years that we borrowed money from education. We haven't paid it back.
That's a whole separate issue right there. Senator Anderson, we will put a video recap and we'll put a link to your website and have.
And
make
people
sure
can call. I'm
have
happy to
access
explain
your
the issue in
petition if they
detail.
want to join.
It's very confusing. There's multiple layers, and
Lot of
something
layers.
that takes more than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate your focus. I'm going to leave this with
Yeah.
you so you have it. But that is the smoking gun, and then you'll see throughout the state there are other stories being written about sheriffs. Say the sheriff in Kings County. He talks about how he's going to have to release violent felons back into his community, and we're not. His number one felon is a murderer from Canada. So we're not talking about one country. We're talking about an international
Wherever,
grade of
whatever
felons.
country.
Sure. All right. Well, best of luck to you. Up
Thank you
in the super minority
in.
up there, and we want to wish you